Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. We're going to get started in just a minute with our behind-the-scenes tour of the City Reliquary Museum. We have Justin on site for us, working the camera again. I'm Nicole. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a writer at Untapped New York. We have a lot of people joining us today, so it's very exciting. I want to just give everyone a minute to sign on, make sure everyone gets in, and then we'll get started. If you have any questions as we go, drop them in the Q&A or in the chat, and Justin will see them, or I'll pass them along. And if we don't get to them as we go, we'll answer them at the end. I see a few people are telling us where they're from. Hello, Lorraine, joining us from Asheville, North Carolina.
Hi, Lorraine. Haven't seen you in a while. Hi, Robin. I saw Robin sign on.
Robin, yeah. Wendy says she's getting to do this just before work. Nice.
Hi, Wendy. Awesome.
All right. We'll let everyone join us here, and I think we'll get the ball rolling. I'm going to toss it over to Justin, who's on site at the City Reliquary Museum.
Oh, Marcy, good. You finally got on. I just saw that email come through, and I couldn't help you because I'm here. Hi, Joe. How are you?
Joe in
Good
London.
to see you from London. All right. I am not going to do a face on me thing. I've decided today, since I'm prepared for a snowstorm, and as I said to Nicole, I look like a retired ninja. And I don't know why that came to my mind. But here you can see we are at the City Reliquary Museum. Hi, Nancy from Westchester. Super excited today. We are with Assistant Director Beth, who's going to introduce herself, and she is going to walk us around. There are so many interesting things to see here. I showed up like 25 minutes ago, and I'm all like, I haven't been here in years and just like nerding out totally. Hi, Larry from West Springfield, Massachusetts. And here's Beth. So I am going to stop saying hi to everybody. So welcome to everybody in general. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. Nicole, as she said, is going to monitor. And if I see something pop up, I'll try to get it over to Beth, but if not, we'll do it at the end. And Beth, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, Untapped Insiders. My name is Beth Haynes, and I'm the Assistant Director here at the City Reliquary Museum. We are a tiny little storefront museum collecting artifacts and ephemera reflecting the daily life in New York City, kind of everyday objects that aren't collected by the larger museums. We started in 2002 as basically the passion project of one guy named Dave Herman. He had a ground floor window right around the corner from where we are in Williamsburg on Brand and Havemeyer, and he just started putting artifacts up in his living room window for the passersby to see, with like a little button rigged up so you could press it and hear him talk about the artifacts. He's an art installer, so he was able to do this in a really creative way, decorated the outside. And so it became kind of a local landmark. People would start leaving New York City artifacts that they'd picked up in his window. And he met other collectors, other people interested in New York City minutiae, and it grew into this museum. We've been here since 2006, and we recently, you might have heard, did a museum membership drive for sustainable funding so that we could stay in this spot. COVID's been hard for many museums and for us. So we hope to, with this sustainable funding, be here for quite a while and continue collecting New York City artifacts. So let's get started.
Yeah.
So we're very inspired by cabinets of curiosity. They're wonderful little drawers, things that you can open and see tiny bits of history. So we've got up here this kind of this is going way back to the 1500s, and this first known etching of a cabinet of curiosity that is an Italian pharmacist whose name I've forgotten, but you'll see that there's an alligator on the ceiling of this etching. And there's also an alligator on our ceiling, which is right up there.
There you go.
Yeah, his tail's a little bit broken. I can't vouch for this alligator being from New York City. It's more of a reference to us being a cabinet of curiosities, and also to the myth / sometimes truth of alligators being found in New York City sewers. We've got a little headline underneath the etching: alligator found in Uptown sewer. That's from 1909. And back then it was just pretty much like today when alligators or tigers or other things are running loose. It's usually somebody's exotic pet that escaped. It wasn't illegal to buy alligators and just keep them in your house then. So sometimes people did, and sometimes they got loose and ended up in the sewer. So that's the zoomed out background of how the City Reliquary came to be, and let's show some things that we collect.
Yeah.
This is our MTA case. I know we've got some rail fans in the audience,
Yes.
and I am very much a public transit fan myself.
Yes, including the guy holding the camera. So everybody's going to sit through this.
Yeah, so we've got a complete set of past tokens from the New York City subway system. What most collectors are impressed that we have is the Archer Avenue Extension commemorative token, which is in this little case back here, with the Diamond Jubilee, the 2006 token and the Archer Avenue Extension. But we've also got the Roosevelt Island Tramway tokens. We've got the various ones with the Y cutout. The Aqueduct Racetrack token, which is the bigger one, 28mm token. And of course, the original blue Metro card. That they switched from blue to gold, and that's really the only change that's been made in the Metro card design since it was introduced in 1996. The gold was easier for people to find in their wallets.
It was.
So after a bit of testing, they switched the gold and blue. My favorite story, which I actually heard at a talk at the Transit Museum, was that the version of Adobe Photoshop that had come out in 1996 was the first one to have gradients in it. And so the designers who designed the Metro card,
they're like, oh, look, gradient. Yeah, it's very true. Yes, Robin, the token holder that you gave me, which I use on every subway tour, is right there, right front and center.
Ooh, the little one.
Yeah,
I
love those
cool.
things, the spring-loaded ones. I forgot the Metro card was blue. I totally forgot about that. That's so cool.
Yeah, so eventually, I suppose we'll get an Omni card whenever those get introduced.
Whenever that's done. So this up here, this is all Brooklyn Bridge, right?
Yep, and we've got a sort of a sub theme of things that we collect are rusty metal bits and terracotta bits that have fallen off of buildings or bridges, been replaced. We've got a cable guide from the Brooklyn Bridge, a large U-bolt from the Brooklyn Bridge. I believe this nut here is from the Brooklyn Bridge. We know some contractors, people who do repairs, and they would otherwise just throw these parts away. But they were once part of the things holding our bridges together.
Yes. And of course, the opening day invitation done by Tiffany.
And let's see, I'll show a couple other things in this case. One is the Brooklyn gum, which is the rare artifact that is not from New York City. That is a brand of Italian gum, and is only manufactured in Italy. We've had guests from Italy come to the museum, and they're like, this gum you find everywhere. This is in every one of our corner stores. But it is not common to find here. They just like the Brooklyn Bridge. The other thing here is, and I don't know how well you'll be able to see it through this magnifying glass, but it's the SJD token. The SJD token, SJD stands for Sylvester J. DuBose. He was a controller at the MTA, and he snuck his initials into the design of the token before it was sent to the mint.
So cool.
So he eventually was found out and he got fired, but the SJD tokens remain. So if you've got any of this kind of token at your house, take a look under the D in good for one fare and see if you can find the tiny, tiny initials SJD. You might have a real collector's item.
Cool. There we go. Very neat. And we got it too on camera. Woohoo.
Excellent. Okay, so I guess we can do kind of a...
Yeah, I'll do, I'm going to do so poor Beth had to hear me talk about Anthora cups from the minute I walked in. And the Reliquary has this awesome collection of Anthoras. Do you mind if I step up?
This one's one of my favorites because it's got a very Greek
Yeah.
design there, and then the font is 1980s teletype font.
So for those of you who haven't seen my virtual or have been on the actual coffee tour, Anthora is sort of New York's cup, which was invented in the 1960s, early 60s, by a guy named Leslie Buck. And Leslie Buck, oh, you have a Terrace Bagels coffee. That's from my neighborhood. Holy cow. I love Terrace Bagels coffee. Sorry. Leslie Buck designed a coffee cup. He was a Czechoslovakian, and I believe this one is the original, if you don't mind me touching it. This is the original We Are Happy to Serve You. Leslie Buck designed it for all of the Greek diner owners. And it's called the Anthora because of the Anthora vessel that's on the side. Oops, sorry. Right there. I'm getting so excited. The camera's going everywhere. And then, of course, there were many, many imitations, as you can see here. But the one that I just picked up is the original. Sorry to steal your thunder, Beth. I love the Anthora.
No, I mean, it's such an iconic New York design that there are many parodies of it, like this one from La Esquina Tacos, which has, instead of the Anthora vessel, it has a luchador. That one's really fun, I think.
Love it.
Okay, so let's go into the museum proper. This is our permanent collection gallery. We've got things from local businesses that have gone out of business. We have, as I said, pieces of buildings and bridges. We have pieces of New York City itself, the actual bedrock of New York City. We've got some core samples in wood marble, Manhattan schist. Our resident geologist, Nick Sokol, gathered these in the course of his work. He also worked on some restoration of the old Croton Aqueduct. So these rusty tools, like the wrench and the shovel down here, were things left behind by workers in the Croton Aqueduct itself, and I suppose providing healthful iron to New York City's water for 100 years before he removed them as part of his restoration.
So cool. The shovel too, huh?
Yep.
Wow. And there's a photo. Very, very neat. And that's, I don't know if you can read it, this long core sample is in wood marble. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful piece.
Really gorgeous. Okay.
And sort of in keeping with the aqueduct water theme, we've got a collection of seltzer bottles of Brooklyn from all over the city. There used to be hundreds of seltzer men who would have a route. They would do home delivery of seltzer to their customers all across Brooklyn and the other boroughs as well. But you can see from the addresses that are on some of these that are they're from all over the city, and the designs are really beautiful. And these are, amateur graphic designers who did these etchings.
Yeah, very beautiful. I'm assuming this one's kosher, maybe diamond.
Yeah, I mean, it was really particularly popular in the Jewish community.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would have a rabbi to bless it to make it kosher. Normally those have like a little like paper seal or something on them as well, so that they're separated from the regular non-kosher water. But it's all just New York City tap water. It was filtered and carbonated and then filled in these bottles. There's still one seltzer bottle filler out in Canarsie, and you can get on his waiting list to have these bottles delivered to your house to make all kinds of fancy cocktails. If you're a seltzer connoisseur, this is really the way to go. It doesn't go flat in the bottles, and it's got more of a bite, is what the seltzer fans say. The bottles hold more pressure, so the carbonation goes straight to your nose, I suppose.
No soda stream here.
Absolutely not.
No soda.
That holds an inadequate amount of pressure.
I bet.
And these are sort of the modern version of it. Water that today is specifically marketed as being from New York because New York's tap water is the best. the city forefathers were foresighted in buying a whole bunch of property in the watershed upstate, is how this came to be.
Right.
Yeah, kind of upsetting people in the towns along the way because they basically swiped their water and their land that they flooded with various dams to provide clean water for the people of New York City. Some of these are jokes like this East River water.
I was just going to say, let's talk about East River water.
Yeah, that is some like an art piece that Dave made up. The East River is now so much cleaner since they've done so many remediation projects,
Right.
the Billion Oyster Project. So the East River is now much better than it was. I think, now you'd have to do Newtown Creek water, Gowanus.
Gowanus, yeah.
water.
I was just going to say Gowanus might be a good one.
Yeah, they're dredging up the black mayonnaise as we speak.
I know.
Um,
I've seen it done.
pretty amazing. So let's talk about the World's Fair stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We've got quite a collection of items from the New York World's Fair in '39 and in '64, both of which, as you probably know, took place in Flushing Meadows. A lot of these are souvenirs, which I think are really interesting reflection of the time in which they were made. Like different things go in and out of fashion, like collector's spoons. Those people don't really collect spoons anymore. Ashtrays were really popular, especially in '64, and that's not a souvenir you find very often anymore.
I love the Trilon in Paris Fear line.
Yes.
That is so cool.
One thing we have, the book here that's called Trilongs and Parasites, that was kind of a jokey cartoon book by a New Yorker for New Yorkers who were tired of people coming from around the world to stay in New York and walk really slow on all the streets.
Oh, I love
want
it.
to stay in your house for free. Aunt Edna wants to come from Idaho to see the World's Fair, and she wants to bring her 6 children and stay in your house for 2 months while she does that. So that was it. The book is funny because it's basically all the complaints that New Yorkers make about tourists today.
Still, yeah.
It's still like these people have giant bags and they walk really slow. But it's kind of an example of like people being tired. And so much about the World's Fair was cheerful and really looking forward to the future. And that was kind of like a cynical bit of history. It's, those things are always present, but it's with respect to the fair, it's not always something that's really advertised. The fair is kind of, when people think about the fair, I feel like they're good at ignoring kind of the negative bits of it.
Yes, and there were quite a few things about the fair that didn't work quite right, both of them. One of which was they didn't make any money, but people still have a great nostalgia for them, which is.
That ticket is great. I love that ticket.
Yeah, I love the graphic design of this period. So.
Nicole, Lorraine said the sound's going in and out. Is that true?
You sound fine to me.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else is having sound issues.
Okay, just checking. Thank you all. Okay.
Okay, so let's see what else. We can do 64 since we're
Why not?
on the World's Fair subject. Here, again, we've got a lot of souvenirs, but I will point you to a couple of original real artifacts. It might be a little hard to see, but we've got here some buildings that were decommissioned from the panorama of the city of New York, which is still, you can go see it at the Queens Museum of Art. It's a scale model of the entire city. It's in a room twice the size of this whole museum. And it's a really model to see, but they've updated it a few times, and these are some buildings that were removed in one of the updates.
Do you know which ones they were specifically?
I do not.
Let me see
Some
if
of
I
them
can
look
get a
just
good.
like cars. And then there's definitely some kind of like pier type building on this little bottom platform.
Robin, I wonder if your dad took some of these off. I think one of them's from Lower Manhattan, Panorama. That is so neat. I saw a question that said, was the Trilon and Perisphere? Yes, were 1939 and 40 World's Fair. That was Theme Center. So those guys were located where the Unisphere is today.
Yeah, that speaking of scale models, the Perisphere had a scale model of a city of the future.
Democracy,
inside.
yes. You had 25 cents to get in, which was quite, considering it was a...
Yeah, well, and you paid to get into the fair already, but...
Yeah, here's a map.
You can't not see Democracy.
No.
When Bel Geddes, you gotta go.
It was, yeah, Bel Geddes and the magic conveyor belts, the magic carpets,
Yes.
they call them.
Yeah, the Pieta was, that was the one and only time it's left the Vatican, was to come to New York for the 64 fair. You had to get on a conveyor belt inside the Vatican Pavilion to see it, and they would just kind of whisk you on by so that people didn't just stay there all day. Then, of course, you could buy a replica.
Yeah, you could buy the Pieta and take it home, which I'm sure a lot of Italian grandmas like mine did.
The other cool thing is this is a license plate from the World's Fair Fire Department. They had some special trucks that were out acting as fire services for the World's Fair.
Oh, so cool. There's a ticket right there for 64.
And some kind of metals, and
Yeah,
actually, it looks like Forester, IOOF. Yeah, not sure what those are. Yeah, and every time I am looking around the museum, I find something else. Like,
I mean, for sure.
That.
I feel like if I worked here, I would discover something new every day.
Constantly. So as we turn to our right, we get our Statue of Liberty collection. This is probably the most important thing. A great example of something very ordinary becoming special by virtue of its context.
Right.
This is a totally ordinary light bulb that looks like you would put it outside your garage, but that is a light bulb that lit up the Statue of Liberty's torch.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, and that was donated to us by Charlie DeLeo, who for many years was the National Park Service employee who was responsible for changing the light bulbs in the Statue of Liberty's torch.
We did a great project with Charlie DeLeo, and then over at Ellis, he's got his little office in the hospital over there. He's such a neat guy.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
And he's so passionate about his
yeah,
work,
he's like, it's so inspirational. All right, let me see if
the Statue of Liberty is really something that belongs to everyone and represents kind of the best of what America tries to be. And so I think that's why there's so many representations in popular culture. I think also because Bertolli didn't get paid for the actual statue, but he did get paid for its use of its likeness. So I think the marketing, he was kind of willing to let it be marketed as widely as possible. But sometimes the things that Lady Liberty is used to sell don't make a ton of sense, like why snap fasteners or hinges. Things like fireworks or maybe even silver polish, they make sense. But
snap fastener.
Yeah. Things like fireworks are down here, those make sense.
So the Liberty collection is from like a sort of an assortment of people, or is this one person who just loved Liberty?
Our founder, Dave, really likes the Statue of Liberty, and so a lot of these are his.
Okay.
Some of these are ones that the museum's gathered. A bunch of them people have donated to us. A question that we often get is, how do we get the things that we get? And it's kind of a hodgepodge of places. Things like Kyle Supley's World's Fair collection, 1939 World's Fair collection, that's on more or less permanent loan to us.
Yeah.
Some things people donate to us sometimes anonymously. Like people used to, like I said, stick things, like leave them at Dave's window back when the museum was just a window. Yeah, they could see things that were discarded and be like, this seems like something the City Reliquary would collect. And building the collection in a communal way like that is, I think, really interesting and different from the way that other museums build their collection as well. It's something that like people want to see represented. Like
right.
This is important to like that person's experience of the city, which is something that's really great, I think. But also, like another way that we define things is just things that people literally discard. Like we've got or part of, I should say, the Second Avenue Deli sign from its original location on Second Avenue. And that was, we pulled that out of the trash.
Where is that? Is that?
I've got part of it up here. It's not on view right now, but I pulled part of it out the other day, so
Hold on. Should I come to you? Or?
No, I'll bring it in.
Okay. I'm just gonna fixate on Domino Sugar for a minute. Oh, look at that. There it is.
Yeah, there's the V. The rest of it is in different pieces down in the basement.
So this is a relic of the Second Avenue Deli sign.
Yeah.
Wow. And you just took it right out of the garbage. Nobody wanted it.
Like
huh?
it was in the dumpster. The deli part had already been discarded, but we have the part that says Second Avenue.
So cool.
Yeah. So this was the V and F.
We have a question from Peter, wants to know if you accept everything or do you reject any contributions?
Oh, that is a good question.
That is a good question.
We don't have a ton of space here, and so we do have to be pretty picky about what we take. If something's duplicative, if it's something that takes a lot of restoration work that we just don't have the funds to handle, like that's something we have to take into consideration. If something's going to take a lot of room relative to other things, yet its importance is not so strong, we kind of have to balance all of this stuff. So we can't take everything, but we end up taking a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about this wooden brick from the last remaining wooden sidewalk in NYC? I didn't know we had wooden sidewalks in New York.
Yeah, they were often put outside of businesses like hospitals, where it would be less noisy when horses and carriages were going over them. Even though they were soaked in creosote, so they wouldn't get too disgusting and degraded. They just weren't as sturdy, obviously, as cobblestones.
Yeah.
So
that's
eventually they were all taken up. Yeah, that one we got, somebody mailed that to us. We've gotten several bricks mailed to us over the years. But yeah, this was donated to us as like somebody who lived in Greenpoint saw that they were taking up the last wooden sidewalk and sent us a wooden brick.
So cool. And then of course the rat skeleton.
Yes.
That's always a big hit.
Yeah, that used to be in our MTA case for like obvious association reasons.
Right. That's where I remembered it. Last time
but
I was
now
here.
he or she lives there.
Speaking of the MTA, we've got a good BMT sign hanging from the ceiling here. Brooklyn Manhattan Transit Company, the second subway line. And then we've got, which I love, strap hangers with dates.
Yeah, these are fun, and I particularly like the way that these are displayed, kind of like taxidermy.
Yeah, they do. They look like mounted like deer head.
Yeah, like we went hunting and we took down these subway cars.
Oh, I hit one. Sorry.
We have an interesting question from Robin. She wants to know, how do you authenticate some of the random stuff that gets donated?
We look at the provenance, basically. Like if somebody is coming to us with stuff, like how did they get it? Our budget for actually like hiring somebody to authenticate it and do that research is $0. We're all volunteers here. So basically, like, we're relying on people to not fool us, but on the other hand, like, we're not paying for stuff either, so it's not like somebody would walk in with something very expensive and we'd get fooled into showing a fake Picasso or something.
Right.
I feel like the stakes are a little bit lower when it's more everyday objects.
Well, and it's also the idea of the community. It's like a community-driven museum.
Correct.
Stuff donated, everyday objects donated by the community. Of course, I'm sure a lot of this stuff has a lot of value to it, but also it might only have value to people with, a love for New York, and some other people might be like, no, not at all. But for us, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I love this. This is great.
This is an example of something that's really priceless.
Yeah.
But like, how much money would somebody pay for it? These are first haircut photos from a local barbershop in Williamsburg. Al Crisillo did it as basically a promotional thing. Like, he would take photos of kids getting their first haircut, give a copy to the parents. And he would keep it as kind of a community archive as well. So we've got pictures from like 5 decades of him giving haircuts to kids, and his barber setup and his look is constant, and we get different fashions of the day and different styles of haircut on the kids as you go through the album.
I love this guy. This guy was clearly one of the kids who grew up and came back to Al for
it really became a family tradition.
Yeah. Such a great idea too. And here's Al. Al was on Metropolitan Humboldt. So cool. Yeah, you see the kids change and kind of Al change, but the store does not change at all. And then you've got this barber
this is
tableau
the
here.
barber setup of Antonio Nobile, who's in the Barber Hall of Fame. His Barber Hall of Fame plaque is over here on the side. I'm not sure what exactly he had to do to get into the Barber Hall of Fame, like whether it was a speed or skill or just voted in by his peers. I'm not sure, but he was in the Barber Hall of Fame. He's got an interesting hand-drawn diagram of the best order in which to shave a person's neck.
Oh, yeah. That's actually useful.
Got the old toiletries, Florida water, of course, made in New York, despite the name.
The JFK photo or the drawing is so barbershop.
Oh yeah, that's a classic one.
Yeah.
It's like when you start out, you've got to put one up of the president when you came in, and then just leave it there forever. So people are like, oh, it's a Kennedy era barber. I trust this man. And one more from a vanished business. Downers Pharmacy was on North 4th at Bedford Avenue.
Okay.
I believe it's now a cheese shop, or maybe it was a cheese shop and now it's something else. But Downers, when they left a bunch of bottles and stuff in the basement, and the cheese shop brought them by and said, like,
let me do this.
Do you want these old bottles that were left in the basement by the pharmacy? And we said, heck yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Another example of Brooklyn manufacturing is X-Lax. We've got several different boxes there. X-Lax used to be made in New York City.
Yes, it was. Keep it moving.
Yep, there's a factory on Atlantic Avenue that is now condos, but it's called the X-Lax building, and they still have some of the old signage up front.
Luxury condos in a laxative. Manufacturing. I love it. That's very New York.
It's a very New York story.
Very, very New York story. Lavender flower. What? And there she goes. Hold on, guys. Sorry. My phone sometimes gets a little bit challenged. Sorry. Hold on.
Just think of it as a Coney Island ride.
Yes, you just went on a roller coaster ride. I think I was doing too many angles, getting too fancy there. All right.
Okay.
So.
I have no idea
How are we doing on time, Nicole? We're very, Beth and I are very much lost in this.
Yeah,
So,
it's 12:36. You got some time.
oh, okay, cool.
Okay. So let's look at this newsstand, which was on the corner of Bowery and Canal, Petrella's Point. This dates from the time when, if you had a newsstand license, you could build it yourself and it could look however you wanted to. So Adam Petrella, who ran this newsstand, was himself an artist. So he painted a lot like Bruce Lee, the buildings on the Lower East Side.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
look, there's the synagogue.
Sell those alongside the comics, newspapers, etc. And the aesthetic, there's, if you turn the cameras just to your right and a little bit down, you can see photos of it in place.
There?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't see anymore, so. Oh, I see it now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really cool. And how long was that there till?
This actually, like, these pieces are from Petrella's Point 2.0. It was there for about like 40 years, and then the bank that it sat in front of illegally demolished it.
Oh.
Because it didn't go with their aesthetic. This was in the early 2000s. But Adam Petrella sued them and won. They had to pay for him to rebuild the newsstand. So this is from the rebuilt Petrella's Point, courtesy of TD Bank. And when he died, his family gave it to us.
Cool. All right.
Because it's Bruce Lee drawing is the all-time bestseller. I like that.
There's Bruce Lee. 25 cents each. That's a bargain.
It sure is.
Okay.
For an original piece of artwork.
Sure. Is this Teddy?
That is Teddy. That was sculpted from life. Our resident geologist, Nick Sokol, his grandfather was a sculptor, was one of Rodin's apprentices, and emigrated to New York. He had a studio in Boerum Hill, and he sculpted Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt came to sit for him. And the bronze bust that was made from this plaster cast is in the Teddy Roosevelt home or something upstate. It's not in the city, but it's around.
Okay. Who's the SS Mary Ann?
So that is from a Coney Island ride.
Oh.
W.F. Mangles was a famous ride builder.
Yes.
He constructed the whip.
Yeah.
This is a much more sedate ride because this one is for children. You can fit two little kids in there. There's like a mock machine gun in the front for some reason.
You know, for kids.
Yeah, for kids. And a little steering wheel in the back so both toddlers inside could pretend that they were doing something while the boat went around on its track. The ride itself is not particularly notable, but the story of W.F. Mangles is pretty great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
An 18-year-old German immigrant engineering genius came to New York and within a few years had a carnival ride factory that put all others to shame.
Like an empire.
Yeah.
He was amazing.
In addition to the whip, he patented the device that was the most successful and ended up being the most widely used for carousels that regulated the horses going up and down. So that was kind of like his huge moneymaker. There was a Mangles factory in Coney Island through the 60s, made his rides right here in New York, and they spread all over the world. So that's pretty cool. This is where we do temporary exhibits.
Okay.
Our back gallery, the one that's currently up is one that's been up for a while, obviously since we were closed for 6 months. But this is Marty Raskin's collection of New York City Board of Ed memorabilia. This hideous gym suit might be—
I was going to say, is this a gym jumper? All you New York public school kids.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I would not forget that if I had to wear it, that's for sure.
W.F. Mangles. I saw that question come through. I forgot what the W and the F stood for.
I
think it's William something.
Like
Yeah. Thank you, Nicole. So what I love is all of these class pictures that he found. And you said this was from the private collection of a public school teacher, right?
Yes. Marty Raskin went to New York City public schools, taught at New York City public schools, and loved everything about that experience so much that he collects anything and everything he can find having to do with them. And a lot of that is student-based, so like class photos, these spirit buttons, got some spirit hats, but also a lot of the building infrastructure, like the really beautiful antique doorknobs that say public school. Got like some boiler room equipment, this timekeeping clock.
Was this a dunce's chair?
Fire bucket, and this dunce chair.
Oh,
yeah.
the dunce chair. Look at that.
It definitely something I only saw in cartoons until Marty brought this in for the exhibit. Obviously worn out by generations of
dunces.
Dunces.
My lord, we don't do that now, my lord. Yeah, with the hat, the whole thing. It's just not cool for kids now. The pins. Young people. Harper's. I want to take a look at those doorknobs. We're sweeping over, guys. Oh, we're good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no, we're all right.
They're very beautiful. If you
They're
went to school
beautiful,
in New
yeah.
York City and you were in an old enough building, you probably remember those.
Board of Ed, New York. I love this fire drill illustration here. In case of an emergency, file out orderly, which always used to happen in New York City public school. Fire drills when I did them.
You can see how much larger these classrooms
Yeah, and
were.
look at how airy
That's
and right.
like the pedagogical system of this time, the 1870s, according to the illustration, where there's just one big room for boys and one room for girls.
First aid kit, also important. And so I heard you pulled some stuff from the archives for us over here.
Yeah, so this is a sanitation man hat. You can see it actually says sanitation man. So, the modern day sanitation badges just say sanitation worker.
Right.
But this is a more old school type of hat. So that's pretty fun. We did a whole exhibit a couple years ago on trash in New York City, and I'm still fascinated with it to this day.
Yeah.
I get teased by my roommate a lot for being so interested in trash, but I find it a really fascinating subject.
Hey, it's modern archaeology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, not everyone believes me. I've got some World's Fair paper ephemera. This is
Futurama.
Futurama in 64, 65. A
Ooh.
map of the inside. You can see the various associated products and brands.
The most popular event at the fair, both fairs, Futurama.
Yeah. They had like this whole courtyard. We've got overseas operations, got the truck and coach, the truck of the future. I wonder if they anticipated how big trucks would be today for the average driver. I doubt it.
Cool.
So we've got that. This is a stunt car program, Hell Drivers. The series of events that you could see, fender to fender crisscrossing, 4-car bumper tag, 6-man leap, barrel rolls, wing ski jump, reverse spin, and controlled reverse spin. Very important. Yeah, so this would have been a really, I like this ad too.
Gottfried Frankfurter rolls served here. Good to know. And that
You can see like the track. There's some
right by the Grand Central.
good photos in here. The T-bone crash stunt. The bone-jarring T-bone crash is one of the highlights of the Jack Cockman Hell Drivers performance. In the maneuver done with old used cars rather than the standard new models, one car zooms up ramp through the air and dive bombs itself into the side of another vehicle. Driver remains in the moving auto.
Whoa.
Yeah. Capers. This Happy the Clown is in the Heck driver's car. Yeah, so that's some fun stuff.
Cool.
And then this is, we were talking earlier about how like the bad parts of America, parts of the fair, of the world kind of get hidden in the fair. And this was from a protest by the Congress for Racial Equality, saying like, hey, look, these states, these places, these brands are putting on a good face for the public, but you know what they aren't talking about is how Black people are brutalized, not able to hire, like Schaefer Beer, like they won't hire Black people. Maryland, yeah, if you are Black, you can't get served. I'm probably wiggling this around quite a bit.
No, it's okay. I wanted to get in close just so that.
Like these are specific demands that, you know, are still being made today, frankly.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is something that like it gets glossed over anyway. This is a record postcard from depicting Times Square. The song it supposedly plays is called Manhattan. I'm not familiar with that actual song, but the record postcard is pretty fun.
I've never seen a record postcard before. That just made my day.
And these are sort of in their own little reliquary. I didn't give my spiel about the origin of the name. The reliquary is, you know, usually associated with the bones of saints. We have the bones of New York City. The things that are, you know, everybody has bones, and so they're kind of ordinary things, but in context and knowing the background, the stories, they become a lot more special. So anyway, in this reliquary, these are peep show tokens from Times Square.
Ah, there we go. I was wondering why they were busty within them.
Yeah.
That is super neat.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun. And then this is kind of about the museum generally. You know, we've talked a lot about how the community is a really important part of the reliquary. And one of the things that we love and encourage in our community of fans and friends is that they collect really weird things. And we encourage the people to showcase their interesting collections, both here in this special vitrine and in our yearly event called Collectors Night, where collectors bring in their things and put them out on a table, much like this. And you can see them. People can talk about what they're passionate about, why they've collected things, what meaning they have. So the community collection we have up now is Glen Eden Unbinder's collection of eponymous items. The Glen Eden is Glen's first and middle name, and it's also a kind of evocative yet generic phrase.
Right.
So it's perfect for naming whiskey or wine or a soccer team or music or China pattern. So these are from Glen Eden named objects and places from all over the world. There's a whole town in Australia called Glen Eden that this bus map is from. There was a ski club. There's a nudist camp in San Diego. Yeah, so whenever Glen travels, he looks for anything, any kind of place called Glen Eden. Looks in antique stores or hotels or other various items called Glen Eden. And this is just some of his collection of items that he's found with his own name.
Go Glenn.
So we are under 10 minutes now.
Okay, so we'll take some questions. I'm just going to do one more pan around, but you could start asking questions. We'll
Cool. All right, so we have a few questions from Peter. One that he asked is, what do you personally consider some of the strangest items in the collection?
Oh, good question. I find like I suppose a weird thing is probably the La Velita cake, which is also the most asked about item. You probably saw it in the front.
I'll walk slowly over there.
Yeah, it's a display cake from the window of a local and much beloved bakery, neighborhood hangout. The cakes in their window were always kind of past their prime, but it was so popular with folks that it didn't matter. Like, people weren't being drawn in by cakes. They closed in 2013, got priced out of the neighborhood. The original folks retired. But they gave us a cake from their window as a callback to our origins as a window museum. And this is the cake. It's styrofoam underneath, but real frosting on top, so it's kind of melted a little bit every year, and it kind of horrifies some of our visitors.
That's real frost? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that is horrifying, yes.
Yeah, so I've seen photos from when they first gave it to us, and it was yellow.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So that's a pretty strange item. I love the pinup cake toppers.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've got.
It's original to the cake. That was the signature item of La Velita. Good for any occasion.
Okay.
Yeah, anniversary, graduation, bar mitzvah, whatever.
Stag party.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, so.
You've got it.
Oh.
And I guess another.
Right, we didn't do the coin.
Oh yeah. So one of our older items is a commemorative coin from the opening of the Brooklyn Bridge in 1883.
So the light's right. I'm gonna see if I can get in it. There it is. It's right there. This is and you said this is the oldest item in the museum.
It's one of them. When you have core samples, it's kind of like.
Well, yeah, that's true. Core samples are man-made.
Older than New York City itself.
Yeah.
And we have not dated everything in the collection. Some things I frankly don't know how we would.
All right, so let's do another question. Well,
Sure. How can people donate things to the museum now, or see if you're interested in items they have? One of our insiders, Wendy, says she has a plastic bag from the original CBGBs that she's always held on to.
Oh, wow. So the best way is to email us at info@cityreliquary.org and send us a picture and a little bit of background about the item, and somebody will get back to you and let you know if we can take it and how you might best get that to us.
Cool.
Awesome. Peter wanted to know if you ever tried to play the record postcard.
I have not. We got that from a longtime friend of the museum, Michael Camella, who collects old records, advertising records and postcard records. He DJ'd our Christmas party last year, and that's when he gave that to us. I don't think that one he actually played. It's pretty bent. You might have seen it's not super flat, and so I'm kind of afraid of damaging it. I think I'd probably have to go on YouTube and see if I can dig up the song.
I saw somebody said that it was an Ella Fitzgerald song. I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Yeah,
but...
Patricia said, I think the Manhattan song is an Ella Fitzgerald piece.
Oh, we'll have to look that up.
Robin wanted to know if you have a wish list of items that you'd like to have in the museum.
Oh, I, in particular, am an infrastructure nerd, so anything from the water system, from our electric system, basically any kind of artifact from that, I would love. It's tough. There are so many things that it's hard for me to come up with a short list off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I'll have to do some more thinking about that one.
Yeah. People are asking also how they can donate to the museum. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link to the membership program if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are totally a volunteer-run museum, and most of our funding does come from admissions and from events that we hold. Obviously, with COVID, we haven't been able to do admissions or events for like 6 months, basically. It's only been the last couple that we've been able to have very limited visitors and events. So we needed, like many museums, to kind of rethink our fundraising and see if we'd be able to hold on to our storefront. So we started a membership program so that we can have sustainable and ongoing funding, so we can budget more easily if we know that we've got members who are paying a set amount of money a month. We can know that we've got at least our basic expenses, like our rent and our electric bill, covered. And we were successful in raising enough money to cover our rent, so we're able to stay, and that's amazing.
Congrats! I didn't. I'm glad I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled, because otherwise the collection was really going to get scattered to the four winds and probably not reconstituted solely as one thing. But space is always at a premium in New York City. Even programs that were interested in maybe studying it, like we had interest from some university museum studies programs, but they couldn't actually take the stuff.
Right.
But we're hoping to, as long as we can sustain our membership, we are hoping to be around for years to come.
Cool.
So the more members we have, the easier it'll be for us to do that, and for us to do more cataloging of our archives, to get stuff online, to put on new exhibits, to restart our events when we're able to have events again, fingers crossed. To put up things like collector's night, things like the Panorama Challenge, which is a trivia contest that we do at the Panorama of the City of New York in connection with the Queen's Museum, which is
it's a great event.
which is always a really
it's a great event.
We've got both very tough questions and easier questions. So no matter your level of trivia knowledge of New York, you can come and hang out at the Panorama, and it's a good time. So when we can all hang out at the Panorama again, we will reboot that, and we're excited about it.
Cool.
Amazing. Can people visit the museum now, or how can they interact with the museum and its collections at this time?
We are doing visitors by appointment. If you go to cityreliquary.org, there should be a banner on the website telling you how you can book an appointment. We're doing it for a group, like basically one household group per hour. So we've got pretty limited hours still, but it's definitely possible to book some time at the museum, see things up close, hear more stories, because I've been talking for an hour, but I have barely scratched the surface of the things that I have to point out here. Like whether I'm working the desk or somebody else, you can always ask for stories to see things up close, if it's a case that we can open.
And I mean, I'm going to back that up. We haven't even, like, we could be here till tomorrow and still not see everything or open every drawer that's here. So there's so much more to explore. I saw Morbo just put in, Robert Morbeck said that he's going to come. It's really, this was such a cursory dip into the reliquary. So, but a fun one as well. Do we have any other 101?
Yep. We had some quick questions from earlier. Someone just wanted to know if there was any water from the Bronx River, and someone wanted to confirm that the World's Fair admission was 25 cents.
No, the World's Fair, I'll confirm that one. World's Fair admission for 39 was 75 cents. It was 25 cents to get into Democracy in the Perisphere.
Okay.
I'll let Beth can handle the Bronx River water.
Yeah, some exhibits at both 39 and 64 had an extra charge to get in.
Yes, right.
So that's it. Bronx River water, no, not specifically. It all comes to the Hudson anyway, but it would be kind of fun. We used to have in our gift shop a little case that had soil samples from all 5 boroughs, and it would be fun to do one with little vials of water from the major New York City rivers. That
would be a really neat idea. Cool. Okay. Other questions?
I think that's all the questions, but we have a few people saying that they're definitely wanting to come visit.
It's a really cool space.
Yeah.
Nicole, you went into the Q&A too, right? I saw that there were, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I always forget to do that.
Got the Q&A.
I'm always like, chat, and then I'm like, oh no, there's a Q&A question.
So there is one question from Peter. Not sure if you guys will be able to answer it, but he wanted to know if there are other similar museums in other cities like this. He says, I've seen items like these in many local museums, but never an entire museum devoted to this specific kind of collection.
Yeah, I think that in cities, normally the museums are more sort of large and organized, and it's the kind of local historical societies that we're much more like.
Right.
Like Hudson County Historical Society that has stuff from the pharmacy that closed down. We're very much a small town sort of museum, but in a big city.
And also, before I forget, I want to bring everybody really quick outside to see. I love the City Reliquary signage, which looks like a bodega signage. It's really, really cool. And do we have to? I just want to dip you guys out there really quickly because it's cool. So it's on Metropolitan Avenue. It's right by it only took me 3 minutes to walk here from the G train.
This was painted for us by Steve Powers, Espo, who, aka Icy Signs. He had a retrospective at the Brooklyn Museum a couple of years ago. which is cool.
So,
And you know, 24 hours a day, you can walk by and look at our outside windows. We've got some statues of Liberty. We've got some more subway signage.
it's very close to the G train. It's like 3 blocks. It took me like 3.5 minutes to walk here from the G train. Metropolitan stop, Wendy. It's right, just go under the highway and it's right there.
Shepherd's Crook from the Giglio statue.
All right. Well, I think, Beth, this was a big hit. Everybody loved it. Really cool. And when we are back in person, let's do an insider event where we can get people here again.
Yeah, we'd love to do it.
And we can get some more insiders here in person. So thank you, Beth. Give everybody a wave. CityReliquary.org. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm going to drop that link once again in the chat for everyone to visit their website if you want to donate or book an appointment to visit them.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Stay safe. And thank you all to everybody who attended tonight. If you're interested, if you haven't seen it, World's Fair with me at 5 p.m. I'm actually going to go take some pictures to include now in the exhibit. And we will see you later. Thank you all. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Like Justin said, World's Fair at 5 o'clock tonight. Friday, we have a talk with the artist Matt McNelly. And on Monday, Dr. Dan, of the author of Enchanted New York, returns with some of his new work about things that were made in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. So that should be fun too. Hope to see you soon again.
Bye, guys.
Bye.